together. Come on, let's work together.
So who's the best golfer in those three?
We just checked out Lindsey Graham's Twitter account, and he posted this image yesterday. Reminded President Trump, really enjoyed playing golf with President Trump, Rand Paul, and Senator David Perdue. And joining us right now, we've got Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican from South Carolina, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Looked like a fun day.
It was a fun day, and Trump's the best golfer. You're the best golfer. By far.
Senator, what did y'all talk about? I'm sure immigration came up.
You know, getting out of Afghanistan, staying in Afghanistan, talking about the broken border. You know, President Trump's a lot of fun. Rand's a lot of fun. We disagree on foreign policy. David Perdue is the best golfer, second only to the president. And yeah, I said, Mr. President, I just got back from the border. It's a mess. You know, you got to do something about it. We're going to take my bill up. I went to the Rio Grande Valley. What did I see? I saw Border Patrol agents working their ass off and getting no credit back here at home. They're patriots.
Getting discredit.
Getting discredit, getting slandered, by the way. So I'm going to introduce a resolution honoring their service to our country, and I dare anybody to vote against it. I saw 52,000 people been released already this year because we don't have enough space to hold them. Saw children being well taken care of. I saw 700 and something adult males who've been caught coming here illegally, who've been here before illegally, housed in pretty rough conditions because we don't have bed spaces because Democrats won't give us the money, and we're not going to let them go. They'll stay in those cells for 400 days if it's up to me. We're not going to let the guys go.
I don't get it. You've painted such a dire picture, and both sides see it as a dire picture, and yet it's up to Congress and nothing's going to happen.
This is sick. You're putting children at risk. These journeys, only God knows what happens to them. But here's the law. If you can bring a kid with you from Central America, once you're captured and you turn yourself in, we can only hold a child for 20 days.
Doesn't it have to be your kid?
Well, in theory it should be, but 30% of the families are fraudulent families. The law is if you get here with a child and you claim to be a family unit, we let everybody go within 20 days. They'll come forever until we change that law if you ask for asylum.
So here's the thing. You said that Dick Durbin is showing an openness to it. John Tester says that he's approached Mick Mulvaney about doing something. You've also talked to Nancy Pelosi. Not a matter of giving anybody a win. It's not comprehensive. 3 or 4 asylum changes could stop the flow.
90% of this would stop overnight if you required people to apply for asylum in their home country or Mexico, and if you had more time than 20 days to process a claim with a minor child. 90% of it goes away and the pressure on the border stops. People have been captured from 60 countries, Syria, Iran, all over the Mideast. It would be so easy for a terrorist to go to Central America and get in this flow and come here and kill a bunch of us.
Right, so you had an editorial today in the Wall Street Journal, and here's a little of it. You wrote it with Jack Keane. Call Iran's bluff with an offer of nuclear power. And you go on to say that if you want nuclear power, put it in somebody else's supervision because you're going to call their bluff because you know they actually want a nuclear weapon.
Well, if you don't believe they want a nuclear weapon, you shouldn't be driving in New York. You don't build a power plant under a mountain if all you want is peaceful nuclear power. But you can have nuclear power without enriching and reprocessing. You make a bomb by enriching and reprocessing uranium and plutonium. 15 countries have power plants, but they buy their fuel from somebody else. Here's what I'm telling the president. Offer the Iranians nuclear power program. Let them get their fuel from the Russians or the Chinese. Don't let them enrich. There is no good deal where the Ayatollah enriches because that's how you make a bomb.
And what did the president say to that?
I don't know, but I know what the Ayatollah will say. He'll say no because he wants a bomb. Smoke him out.
The president of Iran had a little bit of a breaking point. He came out and said, hey, listen, I will talk to America if you just get rid of the sanctions and honor the 2015 agreement, then we'll talk from there. That's a change, a subtle change the president will never accept. What would you do with that?
Well, I would keep the sanctions on, and I would tell them if they continue to enrich at greater levels like they're threatening to do, all bets are off. If they reactivate the cold water producing reactor in Iran, that is a provocation to Israel and us. There's only 2 things stopping Iran from having a nuclear bomb: Israel and Donald Trump. The Europeans are worthless. They're not threatened by Iran. They want to do business with Iran. If they continue to enrich at the levels they're talking about, Israel's in a box, and we're headed toward a military conflict unless Iran ratchets it down.
Well, why are we the only people who get it?
I don't know. Why didn't anybody get Hitler? Why were we isolationists as a nation, given the threats in Europe and the rise of tensions with Japan? Why don't we understand the world as it is? When the Ayatollah says death to Israel, he's not kidding. When he writes on the side of the missile, death to Israel, he means it. When he says death to America, he means it. He's a religious Nazi. He's not threatened by Saudi Arabia. He's dismembering the Mideast. He took all the money we gave him to build up his war machine. He's a religious zealot who would use a nuclear weapon to destroy Israel if he could get it. Everybody in Israel, left, right, believes that. I believe it. I don't know why the world is the way it is.
And by the way, that deal would have been ratified, and the president would have to undo it if, of course, it got a vote. It was a treaty. But they didn't have Democrat support for it. Ben Cardin, Chuck Schumer, are among the people that didn't like this deal. Yeah,
what was wrong with the deal, Brian? After 10 years, all the restrictions on enrichment are off. It slowed down and marched a bomb. It didn't stop it. The way you stop a bomb from being made is you disconnect all the centrifuges and you dismantle them. You don't need one centrifuge to run a nuclear power plant because you can buy the fuel.
I want to ask you a question about the election, because there are a lot of polls that say if the election were tomorrow, the president wouldn't win. What does the president need to do to ensure a win?
Make sure it's not tomorrow. So no, he's going to win. If he'll just, Mr. President, you're going to win. Just knock it down a notch.
In what way?
Well, we all know that AOC and this crowd are a bunch of communists. They hate Israel. They hate our own country. They're calling the guards along our border, the Border Patrol agents, concentration camp guards. They accuse people who support Israel of doing it for the Benjamins. They're anti-Semitic. They're anti-America. Don't get down. Aim higher. We don't need to know anything about them personally. Talk about their policies.
Senator, those tweets were negative?
I think they're American citizens who are duly elected that are running on an agenda that is disgusting, that the American people will reject. Talk about what it means for America to have free health care for illegal immigrants and no criminalization of coming into the country. See how that works for controlling immigration. Their ideas, they're anti-Semitic. They talk about the Israeli state if they're a bunch of thugs, not victims of the entire region. They wanted to impeach Trump on day one. They're socialist. They're anti-Semitic. They stand for all the things that most Americans disagree with. Make them the face of the future of the Democratic Party. Senator, you will destroy the Democratic Party.
It sounds like you're saying the president went too far with these tweets.
I just don't think you aim higher. You don't need to. They are American citizens. They won an election. Take on their policies. The bottom line here is this is a diverse country. But, you know, Bernie Sanders told Nancy Pelosi to lighten up on them. Has anybody been upset about what Bernie said? Her chief of staff called every Democrat who agreed with their policies segregationists.
Moderates. Called really moderate?
Well, but they said they were like the Democratic segregationists of the 60s. They called Nancy Pelosi out for being critical because they're people of color. Not one person is going to beat up Bernie today. Mr. President, you're right about their policies. You're right about where they'll take the country. Just aim higher.
Do you think he's going to do that? Do you think he can do that?
You know, I talked to him a while ago. I said, you're a good commander-in-chief. ISIS has been destroyed. Our economy is humming. You're trying to get control of a broken immigration system. Their policies will destroy this country. Focus on what they want to do for America and to America and compare it with what you've done. Don't get personal. Don't take the bait. This is not about a person. It is about a country. It is about a set of ideas. They're on the wrong side of the future.
And you do believe that if the president called some of the leadership in to do the asylum changes at the border on a bipartisan level, do you think that's a possibility? Do you think the president might be open to that?
I would try it. I think they hate him so much that we're not going to pass the trade agreement. These laws are sick. They lead to the exploitation of children. People are making billions of dollars off our broken laws, getting children here, smuggling them in and recycling them. I would hate to be a Democrat justifying this system. Call them into the Oval Office and say, let's make a deal. I'll spend money in Central America to help life there, but we got to change our laws. If we don't, they never stop coming. I don't know where the Democratic Party is with President Trump. I don't know if they're capable of working with him. I like him. I think he's been a good president. Mr. President, just focus on policy. Focus on making this country great. It is greater today than when you came into office. You've undone most of what Obama did foreign policy-wise. We're in a good shape here. Let's just don't make it personal. Let's make it about their policies, not about them.
All right. Lindsey Graham, strong words. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Talk to you on radio in a little while.
Yeah.
All right.
Little short guy, you can't miss me.